Have you ever caught yourself talking to yourself while driving, walking alone, or lying in bed at night, not just thinking, but actually having a full conversation in your head? Maybe you were replaying something that happened earlier, preparing for a future situation, or even motivating yourself like a coach before an important moment. And for a second, you might have wondered, is this normal? Should I be worried? The truth is, talking to yourself is far more common than most people think. In many cases, it is not only normal, but also a sign of self-awareness, cognitive organization, and emotional regulation. However, the nature of that inner conversation, whether it is supportive or destructive, makes all the difference. In psychology, this phenomenon is called self-talk or inner dialogue. It refers to the ongoing stream of thoughts and internal conversations that guide your decisions, shape your emotions, and influence how you see yourself. Some people experience it as a clear internal voice. Others experience it more as structured thoughts or mental narration. Either way, almost everyone engages in some form of self-talk throughout the day. One major reason people talk to themselves is emotional regulation. When you are stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, your brain tries to regain control by creating structure through language. You might tell yourself, "Calm down, you can handle this," or "It's not as bad as you think." In these moments, you are essentially acting as your own support system. Research shows that putting emotions into words can reduce their intensity and activate the rational areas of the brain, helping you respond more thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Self-talk also improves focus and performance. Many people naturally narrate their actions when performing complex tasks. "First I'll finish this, then I'll send that email." This verbal processing helps organize information in working memory and strengthens concentration. By speaking your thoughts, even silently, you are structuring your cognitive process and making it more efficient. Another important function of self-talk is decision-making. When you internally debate options, imagine outcomes, or rehearse conversations, you are simulating different scenarios in a safe mental space. This mental rehearsal helps you evaluate consequences and prepare for real-life situations. Interestingly, studies suggest that using your own name or the word "you" instead of "I" during self-talk, for example, saying "you can do this," creates psychological distance and improves emotional control. Despite its benefits, many people worry that talking to themselves could be a sign of mental illness. It is important to understand the difference between healthy self-talk and clinical symptoms like auditory hallucinations. In normal self-talk, you recognize that the voice belongs to you. You have control over it, and it does not feel like an external force. In contrast, certain psychiatric conditions involve hearing voices that seem separate from the self and uncontrollable. Simply talking to yourself, even out loud occasionally, is not a sign of disorder. In fact, individuals with high emotional intelligence and strong self-reflection skills often report more active inner dialogues. They analyze their behavior, reflect on experiences, and mentally adjust their strategies. Creative individuals also tend to have vivid internal conversations, imagining scenarios, dialogues, and possibilities that fuel innovation and problem-solving. However, self-talk has a darker side. Not all inner dialogue is supportive. For some people, the internal voice is harsh and critical. Thoughts like "you always mess things up," "you're not good enough," or "you'll never succeed" can become repetitive mental patterns. Over time, negative self-talk can lower self-esteem and increase anxiety and depression. The brain does not strongly distinguish between external criticism and internal criticism. If you repeatedly tell yourself something negative, your nervous system begins to treat it as reality. Several factors influence how often people engage in self-talk. Loneliness can increase internal dialogue because the brain naturally seeks interaction, even if it is internal. Anxiety also amplifies self-talk as the mind continuously analyzes potential threats and future outcomes. Early childhood experiences play a role as well. Children often speak aloud during play as a way of organizing their thoughts, and for some, this habit evolves into structured internal dialogue in adulthood, so when should self-talk become a concern? It may require professional attention if it feels uncontrollable, intrusive, hostile, or if it interferes with daily functioning. If internal voices feel external or command harmful behavior, that is not typical self-talk and should be evaluated by a mental health professional. But for most people, talking to themselves silently or occasionally out loud is simply part of how the brain processes life. Ultimately, the real question is not whether you talk to yourself, but how you talk to yourself. Is your inner voice compassionate or cruel? Encouraging or humiliating, supportive or dismissive? The tone of your self-talk shapes your confidence, resilience, and overall mental health. Developing healthier self-talk starts with awareness. Pay attention to what you say to yourself during stressful moments. Challenge extreme or absolute statements. Replace "I always fail" with "I didn't succeed this time, but I can learn from it." Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you genuinely care about. At the end of the day, the longest relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. The conversation happening inside your mind is shaping that relationship every single day. The goal is not to silence your inner voice, but to transform it into an ally, one that guides, supports, and strengthens you instead of tearing you down.